Neurofeedback moms. This is Miriam Bellamy. I am the mom who started this group and the director of Whole Family Neurofeedback. I have with me today Ilia Sgygely. This is a follow-up to the interview that we did last week. This is a live Q&A. So whatever questions you have. So the topic is understanding autism. Yes, we'll be talking about neurofeedback in there, but really this is about questions that you might have about autism. And if you have that concern in your family. If you have questions during the broadcast, please type them in the comments. I'll be monitoring that and I will feed them to Ilia as they come up. If you're feeling it's a little too personal, send me a private message. Just would be to Miriam Bellamy. And I will be sort of having a look at my phone. If you ever see me looking away, I will be looking for those and I will feed those to Ilia as well. And thank you in advance for any questions that you guys will bring. We do have several that did come in. So welcome, Ilia. Thank you for doing this today.
Thank you so much. I hope that I can answer any questions to the best of my ability. I will try.
You will. Yeah, okay. I find your perspective refreshing, and I appreciate you coming in at the end of your long day, I know, with working with kiddos.
Thank you so much.
So Ilia is a pediatric OT. She's been in practice for 13 years. She works just down the road from me at Integrated Pediatric Therapy Associates in Windsor, Colorado. They offer a huge range of therapies and therapists, and I've just been impressed with their practice ever since I met them, and I don't say that lightly. So I really appreciate her being here. She's got a master's of science in occupational therapy. Let's see. She's got experience in inpatient rehab and home health. She specializes in the pediatric sensory world, and I think autism or no, a lot of moms in the group know exactly what that means. Let's see, you're certified in interactive Metronome and then the listening program and then also Neuroptimal Neurofeedback. So thanks again for being here. Let me say briefly before we get to the questions that a lot of you know that, one of the reasons that I started doing this is because of the experience that I and my family had, in particular my younger daughter, with neurofeedback. It was just such a profound turnaround. And while we've never had the diagnosis of autism, there is a suspicion of a kind of a mild autism. I don't know if you knew that, Ilia.
I didn't, but
yeah, with sort of.
Who doesn't? I mean, it's almost like who doesn't now. There's the spectrum is a spectrum for a reason. There's so many avenues and areas that can be covered with that. But go ahead. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. So after she did, her sessions, she became incredibly affectionate. And I'm like, who is this kid that really is just dying for hugs? And not, not a little quick hug, right, from a teenager, but like, oh, mom. Whereas before there was this recoiling.
So I have to stop right there.
Please, go ahead.
I'm so triggered. I just have a family who's only I just wrote it down. I think they're in eight sessions. And I don't think he has a diagnosis, but clearly could be somewhere on the spectrum. She literally just said this week on Wednesday, I'm getting so many more hugs. And just like what you just said, I hadn't even put that on the tracker sheet. I didn't even think about that until you just said that. And I just was like, cool. I didn't really go for it. That's so cool that you're bonding and it meant a lot to her. So I could tell that. So I didn't want to brush it off. But when you just said that, I just realized that that's a huge thing for families.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. It was very cool. No. Yeah. So speech changed as well. So there would be strange sentences that would come out a lot. And then all of a sudden she just became coherent. Yeah, she became more confident socially, developed a big group of friends, where a lot was going on there. There were so many changes happened. So, anyway, wanted to share that experience. One of the many reasons that I decided this was something I needed to get into and understand a bit better. So question number 1 for you. So it is the one that people ask the most was, how does neurofeedback help with autism? Say what your experience is.
Honestly, I not have specific examples until 2 things you just said, the affection and hugging and tolerating touch more. And then the whole formulating sentences. I have another kiddo, undiagnosed, potentially somewhere on the spectrum. has a lot of trouble communicating his thoughts, like expressive language.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's been seen with speech, and we've started Neuroptimal, and we're pretty far in, but I see windows with him that his clarity and organized thought comes out his mouth correctly. It's still hit or miss, and he has a hard time making friends because his friends are like, I can't understand you when you talk kind of so far out, and then it takes him like 3 minutes to get back to the original thought. And the friends, the age equivalent friends, are like, I'm done socializing wise. And so it's been hard for him to have a group of friends. And so we're doing Neuroptimal, we're doing expressive language speech, and we're trying to get a social skills group started again for him. But anyway, so yeah, clarity of thought, clearing the thought, organizing what you want to say, and it coming out better. But my number one thing is just rigidity and sorry. Can you just repeat exactly the question? I've completely lost where I was going.
How does neurofeedback help people with autism?
Oh, okay. So a lot of times with autism and the ASD diagnosis and label, the personality characteristics that come along with that is pretty rigid and kind of love their routines, and transitions can be difficult. Changes in their routine can throw them into dysregulation and meltdowns. And what we are seeing with the tracker sheets and the shifts there is that the meltdowns last less, the severity is less. They can bounce back from the meltdown faster. They're not as aggressive with the meltdowns. Just the length of time they last is less, and the length of time to bounce back is less. So just the increased in emotional regulation is just a huge component of what we're seeing a lot of shifts in.
And I was chatting with Ilia before we hopped on, and I actually came across a study today. I didn't even realize I was cleaning out files in my my computer. You know how it gets all built up. Anyway, I came across a presentation from a conference on a research study done by Doug West in British Columbia at the SOS Children's Village, where emotional regulation was what they were looking at. And one of his comments was that all the different therapies that are available for autism, they don't really address the emotional regulation, but the neurofeedback did. And actually, I'm just going to post that in the files in the group once we're done here. Yeah,
I can't wait to read
look
it.
At it.
Yeah, so many times in our sessions, during the Neuroptimal sessions, we are doing emotional regulation and emotional intelligence training with like the zones of regulation, super flex thinking, growth mindset. We're using a lot of those tools to incorporate and build upon emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, being able to identify their feelings, what zone they're feeling in. Then building on top of that is, what zone are others around me feeling? What do my feelings do to the others? So it's so awesome. OT and neurofeedback together is just so exciting. It's like just full of potential.
It makes me think of like EMDR in the counseling world, right? Where people can a lot of times only get so far with EMDR, and they've added neurofeedback to help people move through it, or it's so effective that they don't need to move through old traumas, that they can just sort of let that go. Anyway, it's a supportive tool, and that's another thing I'll just throw in here, that if a person is thinking about Neuroptimal, it's not a therapy, it's not a treatment. It does not cure autism or ADHD or anything else, nor does medication, by the way. But it is a very powerful tool to help people live with it. And I just think that's an important point. Anyway,
Absolutely.
So what therapies are available for if a family's dealing with autism? What can they look to?
Yeah, you name it. Because the world now is so accessible, I think, still. So, oh my gosh, music therapy, art therapy, farm therapy, animal-assisted therapy, the basics, PT, OT, speech, play therapy, counseling, then you go to behavioral services and you get ABA, and
Oh, wow.
I also have heard of PCIT, parent-child interaction training technique. That's been pretty helpful for a couple of kids, and I just think that there's so many, it can be so overwhelming.
I'm like sitting here feeling overwhelmed. It's like, well, wait a minute, wait, what? Which one should I do? Like, what?
I wish I could tell you which one to do. I would just, on the last one, we talked about so much about mom guts and caregiver guts and following your gut and your heart to lead you in the right direction of finding what's best for you and your child and your family. So really sitting down with your support system, your friends, your family, and then like bouncing ideas off of each other about what has worked the best for my child. Like, is it social interaction? Is it one-on-one? Is it a group setting? Is it animals? Are animals the key? Is, what's the key to his success or her success and the potential there? And then if it's farm therapy and hippotherapy, focus all your energy in getting on a list or getting approved and getting in there. If it's music, which is huge key, get a music therapist that will rock your world. We have 3 amazing ones here that rock my world all the time.
Literally.
I am constantly, man, they were rocking out so loud yesterday. I was like, oh, I'm a little overwhelmed. Can we level down the rocking out? But that was, anyway, the skill of music therapy has just come into my career in the past, 3 years. And I just am so excited and blown away by it. But anyway.
So let me interrupt because I think this is important. From what I'm hearing, it's not one size fits all. In other words, if you read a research study that says music therapy is the therapy, you're saying you need to evaluate your child and what their interests are and where their strengths are and where you've seen them thrive. Like, it's a very personal, individual decision. It's not one size fits all.
Family support. One of my families just got this plaque and they hung it outside their house, and oh my gosh. Autism doesn't come with a manual. It comes with a family that never quits. I just loved it. Take a picture. She said she got it off Etsy. So hit Etsy up for that. But I just love that so much. It's a family that never quits, and a support system. So I just love that. So, not a one size fits all, and just follow your heart and your gut and trial and error, play detective. I always say play detective all the time, just day to day. Finding, tracking, and documenting helps guide you in the right direction, I would say.
And I'll go back to a lot of what you said in the video last week about getting a good team, having someone that you have good chemistry with, it just feels like a good fit. They're not going to overwhelm you. They're going to help you slow down and evaluate. And by the way, if you missed that last week, Ilia does offer for Colorado residents, was that a 1-hour consult? No, a 30-minute consult to help you. Okay, wait a minute. Where do I start? Yeah, to help you navigate that. So
absolutely, it is our passion. We, everyone has statements, but we really are here to serve. We just want to guide and care for you as part of our own. That's what I love about this place and this family we have here.
It's very clear. It's very clear to me. So, sweet. All right. Next question. What are some real life stories of families getting help for autism?
For autism, and with and without Neuroptimal. Since we've only had our device since June, and we've been helping kids across the spectrum with autism forever and ever. Real life story. Just I spoke a lot about going back to the basics last time, and we have a pretty strong protocol systems that we use here that address the foundational sensory systems. And I don't want to say this out loud, but I would say 99.9% of kiddos with autism have a sensory aspect, a sensory component that needs addressing. And so we go off this pyramid of learning concept that there's foundational sensory systems, and you build upon those systems and you get to the top of academic learning. And it can be any type of learning, actually processing how to tie your shoes. And all these foundational skills here have to be filled in, and no gaps or cracks in tolerating those sensory input from those systems. And when everything's working together and smoothly and efficiently, then you reach that aha, just right moment. My body, my brain, my eyes, my ears, my whatever sensory system is ready to learn. I can process the information, and I've got this. And it's going to sync, and it's going to stay. So those are the goals of occupational therapy, in my opinion, and working the sensory systems to achieve true processing and learning is my goal. And so the question was,
can you think of even a few different examples, not like some big dramatic story, right? But just some little things that you'll see.
Yeah, the little things. Man, you literally just brought up too by telling your story that I didn't really even identify, because the one thing that Neuroptimal does is that seamless change, and you just don't really see it until the patient's discharging and the parents are like, everything's smooth. It's been pretty smooth sailing. We still have some bad days, but everything's shifting to less tantrums, less meltdowns, less aggression, less irritability, more social skills. I mean, just anything that you want can be achieved really in certain therapy sessions. And I really like to say awareness with the younger 2 and 3 year olds, the nonverbal, autism. I hit those sweet baby. I don't hit them. I hit those sessions hard. I'm sorry. I don't like live shows. Okay. I hit those sessions hard is what I was trying to say, with the protocols that I know work. And it is not easy. It is not fun for those kids. They are getting turned upside down and around, and their systems are just going, what the heck? And I have to check in with the parents to say, you good with this? Because we're in for a little journey here. And then maybe even 2 weeks, that's three weeks in, their awareness of the world around them, because they've been in their own world and not talking, not engaging. And I have stirred them up so much that they're now feeding their mom food. And the mom is just like, how did that just happen? And it's just waking their brain up the right way, and waking their brain up to be able to feel safe in our world, not theirs. Because that's why they stay in their world. They feel super safe. They're in control. I got this. Don't you dare pull me out of this world, because I don't know what the heck you people are doing. And I didn't even know you people existed. And now you're in my world, and what? And then you teach them all the sensory tools to make them more safe and aware and be participating in our world. Did that work?
Yeah. It just sounds really cool.
It is so cool. And that's the most success. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I have put Neuroptimal on a 3-year-old, because we've not done that. But I just don't really know how we would do that yet here at the clinic. We get them moving and activating their sensory systems systematically with our protocols. And we do that first. And then but you know what? I do have I think he's almost 5. And he's tolerating it. He's sitting in a beanbag chair, chilling, and he sits and he leans in to get his sensors on. So I guess I shouldn't say too young. Yeah, he's loving it. Like, absolutely.
I have plenty of moms. I have plenty of moms who hook up their little ones. Yeah. And I often, and I often think about, if I could have, when mine were really little, I would have. And I think about, well, would I have swaddled them? How would I? How would I have gotten them to sit still long enough?
Beanbag chairs are very successful. And our vibrating, we bought a super cheap vibrating chair, and they just play with the buttons the whole time. And it was like $150, but they just push the buttons, and they're really liking that. So that's really helpful for the little ones.
So you were going to say something about the 5-year-old, and I interrupted you.
He's just doing so well. Okay. He's tolerating things so much better. I mean, and what we're really working on now is incorporating, we're hoping, more neurofeedback, Neuroptimal in feeding therapy. I'm
Excellent.
trying to build confidence in our more feeding therapy specialists that we have here. I'm like, can I put it on them? Let's put it on them while they're eating. And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, this is going to work. It's going to work. And then I've been hearing lots of OTs, or not lots of OTs, but I've heard of other people in feeding therapy clinics using Neuroptimal.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, well, we're on board with that because we're going to keep trying. So we're hoping to see some success with that. But I'm telling you that maybe just started a week ago.
Okay.
And so I'm really hoping for some progress with some feeding therapy kids. So tolerating new textures and food and stuff.
Right. Christy Knight,
mm-hmm.
right? That's how she even discovered neurofeedback, was a feeding clinic referred her and her son for neurofeedback.
So maybe I heard that, and then I started looking into it, because I remember talking to her, and I started looking into it, and then I've been trying to convince them to let me do it since then, because I don't really have my hand in the feeding therapy sessions that much. But I just, when you go back to regulation, calming the brain, shifting out of that anxious state of even seeing the food on your plate, it's going to be a huge win. It's going to be really exciting. So.
Yeah, eating is just such a core developmental thing.
And
when it gets disrupted,
the fear and the anxiety is so real, and the trauma of food is so real, and the trauma of NICU and tubes down here,
that was
so real.
My daughter. That was we had at 3 months. Yeah, 3 to 6 months old.
Wow, I'm learning.
Which is why I'm sad. You're learning so much about me, right?
I
am. Which is why I wish I had it back then.
I mean, anytime I hear a NICU story, it's like instant need for OT and Neuroptimal. Like now, it's just NICU, and then you go into trauma informed, and then trauma experienced via real or experience. Oh my gosh, I'm learning more about trauma.
What do you mean? So explain to people what you mean by trauma informed.
Well, I'm not a trauma informed therapist yet. I'd love to be fully certified. I feel like I am informed, but I'm not certified. But trauma being experienced by the child or observed. So is what I kind of say. Like, kids have trauma with food. There's no way around it. They have PTSD, straight up anxiety issues with certain foods and textures, and even seeing it can cause gagging. Just seeing it, talking about it sometimes can trigger an extensive response. So the intensity of the wiring that's in the brain of that trauma needs more help than just certain therapies. Sometimes is where I'm going with Neuroptimal. Is like, this could be a huge component and win for these feeding trauma, PTSD, anxious kids. It could be so huge. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And I will throw in there too, if somebody's listening and thinking about this for their child. I just smeared my glasses. The work of Ellen Satter is pretty profound when it comes to feeding. I would imagine your feeding therapists know about her work. But
I think we use a lot of SOS and the Beckman oral approaches, but we have a feeding therapy team. And again, I don't really even have a hand in it, because I like movement so much more. I like the spinning and the brushing and the swinging and the rolling over and all the super important movement. And and then I'm like, okay, you get up to eat. I'll set up their sensory systems and then I hand them off to you. Yes. So that's my favorite thing. So
Ellen Satter talks about division of responsibility, what the child's responsible for with eating and what the parents are responsible for. And it makes decisions incredibly clear about when your child's not eating. What do you do? Yeah. What's your job? What's their job? Wow. Ellen Satter. Yeah. Anyway, I did if anybody wants more on that, I did a interview with my friend Kira Osseroff. She works as one of the therapists for Ellen Satter Global.
Oh my gosh.
But it's in the series under units, getting the most out of neurofeedback. It's the one with Kira. I'll double check and make sure it's in the group, but it helped us tremendously, helped me tremendously. Wow. So
that is so, that's
yes. All right. We got 2 more questions. How is autism diagnosed?
Yeah, that's neuropsychologist.
Okay.
And that's my most ethical answer for you. I think there are some pediatricians can do it if they have a neuropsych person. I think.
Okay.
I think that's my most ethical question, or response to it is neuropsychology.
Okay.
Yeah, and typically they do have a waiting list. So
Okay.
if you're even thinking about it, just get on the waiting list.
Do you have an
And just
unethical answer?
well, I hear other people saying that they gave the diagnosis. So I think that the correct answer is a neuropsychologist.
Okay.
I've heard some behavioral specialists
Mm-hmm.
diagnosing. So I got kind of confused as how they were doing so.
Okay.
But I've had a couple families say it was our behavioral person. So I don't 100% know that. I thought it was just neuropsychology because of the extensive testing that they do. But I also heard from Facebook, so it's the internet, but like a cheek swab, almost like a blood test for autism. Yeah, new to me too, and I didn't do too much research into it. Probably should have before I said that, but yeah, something about a cheek swab spit test for getting an autism diagnosis, but I would not steer you that way. I would probably steer you towards the neuropsych.
Ask the neuropsychologist.
Yeah. Get on
anybody's listening.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And then
don't ask at OT. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the best way. Okay.
Well, she can point you in the right direction.
Sure. Yes.
All right, our last question, unless any others come in with the folks who are watching. What is the difference between autism and Asperger's?
I guess the more, at some point I thought that I heard that they're even getting away from Asperger's even using that verbiage. They're going to an autism level system. I've seen a couple different levels come through here and haven't had the time to get too much into that research of like, am I missing something? But in our other broadcast, I said, I don't care what the diagnosis is. And I just want to see the kid and see what we can do. So again, sorry about not understanding exactly that. But what I've always understood the difference to be is the cognition level, just a higher cognition on the Asperger's level. But that's about all I can think of because everything else can be either or, like the social skills, the rigidity, sensory, definitely. Sensory is totally throughout both of those and both ends of the spectrum is what. And I think they just wanted an end of a spectrum label when they came up with that. But again, not super specialist. And to quote from the other session, I don't think I even understand autism. Like I just understand the kid and what they need and the inner workings of them and then start working with them where they're at and doing that. So the label of autism itself really doesn't mean anything to me. So, and so many people will say, do they have a diagnosis? And I'm like, I may not know the answer to that because I was just doing therapy. And so sometimes
no, it's such a big problem with the world of diagnosis. Like you said, again, in our initial interview was it's basically for insurance and medical and reimbursement purposes. Yeah. It's not about that individual. And thankfully, at least the National Institutes of Mental Health are starting to move away from these categorical designations. It's about the individual. And I'll do a little plug for Neuroptimal there. It's not about a diagnosis. It's about that
it doesn't
individual.
Treat a diagnosis. It just treats that sweet brain and helps it. Doesn't treat it. It doesn't treat it. It doesn't treat it. It guides that sweet brain.
Yeah. So that's all for our questions now. So if someone wants to get in touch with Ilia, should they just go to integratedpedstherapy.com?
Yeah.
And find you?
I think we put our email addresses directly to us on there, so you
Okay.
can do that. You can send it also to our main email address on the website too, but please check out our website because it is adorable and we offer so many services and it's just so much fun here. So
Yeah. So that's Ilia, Ilia, like IKEA, Ilia.
IKEA.
That's how I remember your name. You
I
told
know.
me that when we
I
first
know
met.
it worked very well.
Yes, it does. And if you're thinking about neurofeedback, running a neurofeedback device, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help see if it's right for you and your family. So
Totally.
Thanks for listening in, those of you who did, and have a great evening, everyone. You too, Ilia.
Thank you.
Bye.